Mike Ferrin, Sirius XM MLB Network Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, now singing the Mike Ferrin Open, it's Mike Stibbs.
Just make sure it sounds sexy, Stibbs.
Lord Almighty, how can you stand Arizona? Your fair skin must be burning down into your absent soul. Mike, 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 we can barely hear you. It sounds to me like you called us from inside a hole. But your phone calls lift me higher, like the ERA of Mark Pryor. Your hair looks like it's on fire. You're Mike Ferrin. You're just a hunk of burning love. You're just a hunk of burning love. You're just a hunk of burning love.
Of Mike Ferrin here on Sportsmanlike Conduct. Hello, friend.
Can I disagree with a statement from your last segment?
Please do.
This is an incredibly critical game for both Creighton and Nebraska for a midweek. I mean, I agree with your basic premise that the weekends are extremely important, but for Creighton to get into at-large range, they need a win against the top 25 RPI team. They kind of got screwed last weekend when Coastal got swept by Troy. There is a path for them to end up in the top 32, according to Boyd's World, but they have to win these midweeks. And for Nebraska,
right? Yeah.
If you're Nebraska and trying to get into hosting, like these next two games are important because they have K-State on Wednesday too. So I just wanted to say, like, yeah, so the weekends probably matter more for them to be able to get into the Big East tournament, and they can still lose this game and end up in the top 45 for sure, and maybe the top 32 and have a decent at-large resume because the RPI is going to matter. But boy, a win against Nebraska tonight would be pretty big.
No, yeah, maybe I overstated it just a little bit, but right now as it stands, and we kind of outlined this last week when we were talking about the same question, was the RPI thing is going to, and the RPI thing and the Big East thing for Creighton is going to take care of itself, in that there's no way they're going to be able to crawl into that range that you were talking about without winning these Big East games.
Well, and this becomes more important too, because the last 4 games of the year, UNO's RPI is close to 300 and Seton Hall is in the 170 or near 170, right? So they're going to take a hit even if they win those games. So this next stretch where they have, Nebraska, St. John's, UConn, these are maybe the most important 7-game stretch of the season. For the Big East tournament, obviously, yeah, you want to be able to get in to have a chance at the automatic qualifier, but to have a chance to potentially be an at-large, like the committee tends to reward those teams in the 30s in the Midwest in RPI.
While we're on this subject, Mike, Nebraska, I believe today starts 25th in the RPI, which is probably the lowest they've been since the very beginning of the season. What does history say about having any hopes of hosting? Obviously, you'd like to win the Big Ten just to have that pelt on the wall, but when it comes to maybe getting a chance to get one of those number 1 regional seeds, what would that take?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like I was looking at the needs report kind of while we were in break, because I was curious where it sat for Nebraska, and they can still get into the top 16, but they have to win all but one of their games, right? And they could win. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters home or road. You're going to get more for the road wins anyway. It says 7 home, 6 road, but whatever it is, I mean, that's what they can do to get into the top 16, which would essentially clinch that for them. Now, being in the Big Ten and being the regular season conference champion, especially if they had some space between them and, it's Illinois and Purdue are tied for the lead right now, right? There is a chance that if they were in the 20 to 25 range that they would get an opportunity to host. I mean, that's kind of what we're watching in the Big 12 and the Pac-12 as well, right? Like Arizona has been at the top of the league the last couple of weeks and stepped back this last week and losing a series at UW. But if they're in the 20s and they win the regular season in the Pac-12, they've got a chance to host. Same in the Big 12 with whoever comes out of it, if it's Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, although their RPIs are going to be in a little bit better shape, closer to that top 16, which again, there's 16 hosts. So I think it's possible, but Nebraska has to, they have to win. They have to win most of the remaining games. It's been a great season for them, though. And they I think right now, even though they're not in first place, like if you were to line it up with a group of pundits and say, okay, well, who are you taking as the best chance to, let's say, get to a regional final out of Nebraska, Illinois, and Purdue? I think Nebraska would be the clear favorite.
You talked with Matt Hogue last week. He's the athletic director at Coastal Carolina, who is also the committee chair. About the RPI, have you had any conversations? Has baseball had any conversations about either scrapping this and doing something different like the net is in basketball, or revamping the RPI and just making it better?
It's a great question because it really came into play last year where the committee was so RPI dependent and they realized that they didn't really feel like they had a better tool. So this year in the room, they're going to use KPI too, which for those of you in logistics is not key performance indicators. It's the Kevin Paga index, who is a former assistant basketball coach at Michigan State, who's in their athletic department, who has it's similar to, I'm going to get nerdy here for a second, ELO rankings. Are you familiar with ELO rankings?
Yes.
They're chess based, right? And basically every game has a point total, and you get a certain number of points for each game that you play. And unlike the RPI where it's variable, so we're like Creighton got a lot of benefit from beating Coastal when they were 12th in the RPI, but not as much now that they're 24th. Like once you bank those points, it's there. So it's kind of a hybrid between RPI and an ELO ranking. They're able to use that this year. There is a pretty good contender, it looks like, in the Diamond Sports Rankings, which is done by the group at 643 Charts, which do a lot of data viz and advanced metrics for college baseball. And that's I would say that's a more liberal read on the ELO rankings than what you have with KPI. And I do think that there is absolutely a stomach for fixing the RPI because it's, one of the issues the RPI has is that it really overvalues road performance, whether it's wins or especially in non-con playing on the road. You get huge benefits for it. That's part of the reason why the Valley tends to have success. They play a lot of road games against everybody. They play a lot of our good RPI teams on the road. And whether they win or not, they tend to get credit for that. Now, I will say that the one outlier to that the last couple of years has been Indiana State, who hasn't just played those games, but they've won those games, right? And that's why they're a top 10 RPI team.
Mike Ferrin joining us, Sirius XM MLB Radio on the MLB side of things. It was a great night for pitching last night. Luis Severino had the Cubs no hit after 7. The Braves had the Mariners pinned down, no hits after 7. First time in the expansion era, that's 1961, those who don't speak baseball, that two teams were being no hit through 7 and both won on the same day.
Really? I did not know that. That's incredible.
I wish I could credit. Someone did quote Elias. I don't remember who sent that tweet out, but yeah, it is the first time in the expansion era that has happened. And first time I know it happened for the Cubs since 92. So I don't know what the Mariners mark is, but I got home last night, Mike. The game was already in the 6th inning. They'd only played an hour and 10 minutes.
I flipped it on and I was like, wait a second, we're in the 7th already on that one? Like it was crazy. And Severino was great last night. Tyon was really good too. It was nuts on both ends. I really feel like the Mets should have won that game. I mean, Joey Wendell's decision to try and turn a double play on a slow roller to third ended up doing him in. They had the runner dead to rights to plate. And, I think they get out of that inning at 1-0 most likely, or, at the very least you got a fighting chance because it's 2 outs and 2 on. In the other one, like that came out of nowhere, the Mitch Garver home run. I mean, Max Fried was really good again. He wasn't quite as efficient as he'd been in his last start where he threw a complete game shutout on fewer than 100 pitches, but Bryce Miller was great as well. And I mean, that's the other part of this is that, while those two teams were being no hit and they won, their starters were excellent last night. Tyon's been really good in his 3 starts since coming back from injury for the Cubs. And Miller has been, Miller is a really exciting young arm with Seattle. So, and I think it's cool that this is a definite, this is should have been a bigger topic on the program, seeing as your favorite team won one of those games and the team that Josh got free tickets for won the other.
I bet Josh probably wasn't even aware there was a no-hitter going on. That would be
no, but his wife was. Like, she's actually a baseball fan, so
he gets all his baseball smarts from her. Yes, he was very excited. He was more excited about the fact that he saw a walk-off home run last night. But
yeah.
So it would look like a hell.
He was more excited that he didn't have to pay for the tickets. That's what he was most excited about. Let's be honest.
Great point. We also had something else that happened last night that we haven't seen since 2006, and that is the Dodgers defeated the 3 true outcomes.
Yes.
They went strikeout-less on offense. They did not strike out on offense. It's hard for me to believe, and I know the strikeout is a big part of the game, but it's kind of hard for me to believe that this hasn't happened since 2006.
It was the first time it had happened to the Dodgers in 18 years. It wasn't league wide. It was just the Dodgers.
I thought it was league wide. Okay.
No. And in fact, it was a former College World Series standout, Chris Mahalik, who started that game against the Dodgers, a former Notre Dame pitcher, started for the Reds. So, who's now, I think, the AAA pitching coach for Albuquerque in the Rockies system. Yeah, I mean, very bizarre thing, right? But the Dodgers don't go outside the strike zone very much. Diamondbacks were throwing, their back-end starter in Tommy Henry, another Omaha legend, right? The former Michigan standout. And Andrew Salfrank came behind him, which just means that there was too much Big Ten pitching last night. I mean, that's probably what did the Diamondbacks. So, listen, like that, it was really quirky, really weird, but that Dodgers offense is ridiculous. Like if you sneeze and miss the first inning, there's a good chance you're going to miss a massive rally because Mookie Betts has been the best offensive player in the league. Shohei Ohtani has been Shohei Ohtani. Freddie Freeman hasn't hit for any power yet, but we know that's coming.
Surprising, yeah.
And Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez are legitimate power threats. Hernandez had a big 2-run double. Smith just absolutely rakes lefties. The top half of that lineup is as difficult to navigate as anybody in the league. So they're a really fun team to watch. I'm excited. I'm going to go watch tomorrow night to go see Yamamoto Gallen. That should be a great pitching matchup, but they're really good. And that was really kind of a cool quirk last night.
By the way, Yamamoto Gallen is not the pitcher's name. That's the two.
Yeah. That's 2 separate guys.
Yeah. 2 separate.
Although
guys.
Yamamoto Gallen does sound like a pretty awesome pitcher.
Yamamoto Gallen sounds like, it sounds like a unit of measurement, actually, but that's another story altogether. I see the Twins have won 8 straight, and apparently we have an unwanted summer sausage to credit.
Well, so is it unwanted? Like the story on it is Kyle Farmer had done some work for, is it Cloverdale is the sausage
Cloverdale,
company? Yeah.
Cloverdale tangy summer sausage.
Yeah.
I have never heard sausage described as tangy before.
Not until Rocco Baldelli used the word tangy, but I have had Cloverdale sausage. It's quite good. And apparently he got like a gift basket as a thank you. And, he brought in the summer sausage, throwing it on the like free table that's in the middle of the clubhouse, hoping somebody would take it. And somebody that took it was one of the players in the middle of the game as they were struggling against the White Sox, grabbed it and brought it into the dugout. And in the next 16 hitters, they hit 5 homers. And so now the homer sausage has been poured. If you have an Athletic subscription, you have to read Dan Hayes' piece today on it, which is just great. He actually spoke to sausage experts because Rocco Baldelli, their manager, was very concerned that by just like tossing around this sausage and keeping it out in the open, that it's going to get that there's going to be mold and whatnot. Now, we as Midwesterners have a pretty good idea the difference between which sausage is mold and which ones are shelf stable. And clearly summer sausage is shelf stable. Something that somebody from the Northeast like Rocco wouldn't necessarily know. But Dan Hayes actually talked to sausage experts to confirm that so long as they're not leaving it out in the Arizona heat in August unprotected, that sausage should still be edible.
Well, A, how does a guy named Rocco Baldelli not know anything about sausage? Number 2, what was the name? It's the gift boxes of summer sausages and cheeses you would get every Christmas, and they always set up in the malls. You remember?
Something far. I mean, we used to get Yeah, I mean,
it's not Pepperidge Farm.
No.
It was something else, and I can still see the label, but I can't remember the name. But they would
Swiss
always
Valley Farms, was that it?
Could be. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I mean, those were everywhere, and people got them all the time, and they would just sit out forever and ever and ever.
And they're still good. Like I had a friend of mine, one of the Brewers broadcasters, sent me. We do this big broadcast dinner every spring here in Arizona, and inviting everybody over to the house for barbecue. And we have a bunch of people. And as a thank you this year, he sent me a giant case of Usinger's sausage. It just came last week, so it's like cheese and meat and all that. My wife dug into it the other day. It's delicious.
Hickory Farms.
That's it. Yep, that's the one.
Hickory Farms. Apparently, Rocco Baldelli has never seen a Hickory Farms at a mall before. I guess it makes some sense. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Central, don't look now, but do I see 4 teams in this division that have a winning record?
In which one? Aren't there 4 teams in the American League Central that have winning records?
That's what I said. The American League Central. I was talking about.
I think you're talking about the NL Central for Central. Yeah, it's really strange. So, like, there's a couple things that are happening. Like, it feels a little bit like the Royals are coming back down to earth some. They have been scuffling a bit here as of late. Their starters have held up pretty well. The offense has come back to the pack. They've been a below average offense over the course of the year. So it feels like they're starting to come down just a little bit. The Tigers really, really pitch well. They have another questionable offense in that division, but their starters are excellent, and they've got a doubleheader against Cardinals today with Jack Flaherty going against his former team. I have a feeling there's going to be a little bit of motivation there based on the way things ended with him in St. Louis. So I think they're an interesting team there. I think the real surprise has been that Cleveland has been as good as they have been offensively. They're really known for their pitching, and their starting pitching depth, I think, is questionable enough still that I wouldn't get overly excited about the good start. But the fact that the offense has been better than anticipated helps to mitigate some of that. Their bullpen is still very good. So, in the end, it's probably going to be the Twins and the Guardians at the top. I think there's a chance that one of the Tigers or Royals sticks around there, but it's at least been nice to see that division be competitive for the first month, and I hope that it continues for another 4. It's always better when you have competitive divisions, even if they are more middle of the packish. That's what the Centrals feel like. But if you've got 4 teams that are in the mix, I mean, you can't really ask as a fan for more than that.
Nick, you're new to baseball, but
yes,
aren't there 5 teams in the American League Central?
Man, you sound like one of the haters.
Nick, do we have something we can play here, please?
High fly ball, left field.
No, that's not the right one. That's not the one. It's the other one. The open.
Oh, I thought that was my bad.
No, the open.
There you go.
Ridiculous.
White Sox. White Sox. Go, White Sox.